So in the previous video, we were able to convert our curve into a mesh. In this video, I'll be showing you how to polish our entire model to get a finished product. So let's finalize on our cup model. Let's finalize on the geometry of our cup model. The next step will be adding subdivision modifier. And what the subdivision modifier simply does is to refine your model by adding more divisions, basically adding geometry to it to make it more rounded and make it more presentable. Now if you want to add the subdivisions modifier, you just navigate to the right side of your Blender UI and you see the properties panel. Now if it's not already on the modifier panel, so just go ahead and click on this wrench, and this wrench is the modifier panel. You go to add generate, and subdivision surface. Now like I mentioned earlier, this modifier is really heavy, and immediately you see that it's beginning to give our cup or mug a smoother feel. If you look at our handle, you see that if you compare that and now see that it's a little bit more rounded, but for our mug it's giving some weird shapes. Now the reason for this is, if you go into edit mode, this is why modifiers are non-destructive. Like I said, you can turn it off and on whenever you want to, but if you notice on our model, aside from this loop cut, we do not have any other loop cuts between these two regions. And what the subdivision modifier does is it smooths out large intersections, right? So for instance, if I turn this back on and we do Control R, that's for our loop cuts, we left click and we drag this all the way up, you begin to see that it's subdividing our mesh, but then it's subdividing within two intersections. So you can see with adding loop cuts, we can shape this subdivision modifier to fit our mug, or basically sculpt our mug into what we want it to look like. As you can see, the edges of our mug is becoming rounded, and we don't really want that. We want it to retain that square look, because if you look at our reference, it still has some flatness in it. It still has, you can see that the edges are flat, you can see that the top is flat, so we'd still want to retain that. So what we'll do is we'll do another Control R, another loop cut just above this, not below this loop cut, but above this loop cut. And if we do that, you see that we will begin to get our squared shape back. So if I should move this, you can still adjust your what do you call it, you can still adjust your loop cut after you've added it. So yes, as you can see, we've gotten that squared feel back. To be honest, you just keep adding loop cuts until you're satisfied. You can even add more here if you want to get it a little bit, if you want to make it a little bit more harder, or rather more sharper. So I'll just do the same thing for this bottom because it's rounding it too much. As you can see, that is what we want, and I should just do this for the bottom here as well, so that we can have a more square base. If I just subdivide this more, you see that our model is getting more smoother. Remember, to add your subdivision, you just increase the subdivision modifier or the levels on the viewport here, and then also as you increase the levels on the viewport, you also increase the level on the render, because what that's going to basically do is your render and your viewport, they have different parameters. And what I can say is, for instance, I can say, okay, render for me 10 subdivisions, and my viewport I just want to see 3. So what that will mean is my viewport won't be as laggy. The subdivision modifier is quite heavy, and the more subdivisions you add, the slower it gets. As you can see, it's getting smoother, but it's getting slower. So we can just say, okay, when you're rendering, just render this amount. On my viewport, I want to see this amount. So yeah, let's just put a 3 or rather a 4. Be careful how much you add here, because the more you add, the slower your system will get. So let's just continue adding this until we've shaped this to what we want it to look like. Maybe I'll add one more for the base, a little bit more. and then for the inside I can do the same. I'll make sure that my cursor is in the inside of my mug. I'll do Ctrl R and then pull it all the way to the base. Let's begin to shape it even more for us, and if that's not enough, we can do that again and again until we're satisfied. We can add another one and have that there like that. You can see that we have our mug basically. Let me add one here just to round things up, and as you can see, we have our mug. So one more thing we can go ahead and do is something called Shade Smooth. Now, Shade Smooth is a tool in Blender that softens the shading of an object, making it appear more smooth by blending the light across the surface rather than showing individual faces. This is useful for getting models a more polished and rounded look. So right now we still have not even, let's make this 3 just so that your system doesn't get too slow. Let's just make this 3. So if you can see, we still have some edges showing, we still have some of the faces showing, and we don't really want that. We want to be able to still render this at this low of a resolution, as opposed to maybe increasing it more and sacrificing speed. So what we can do is you can just go right click in object mode, make sure you're in object mode, right click and then go to Shade Smooth. You can see that all those edges are gone, have literally disappeared, and we have a completely smooth model, completely smooth. So yeah, that is it for our mug, the base model for our mug. We're going to go into texturing it proper and yeah, giving this the final touch it needs. Yeah, hope you're happy with what you have. I'm hoping you have a similar result to mine. If I've thought properly, then yes, you have a similar result to mine, but if not, so just watch these videos over and over again to just get you the exact result I have gotten myself here. So we've come to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed yourself. So you finally have your complete mug, polished and everything, and yeah, you can show people what you have. In the next video, we'll be going over Blender's material system so that you'll be able to make a material for your mug and have a complete finished product. See you in class.